It is middle of July 2023. I'm going to be drinking my tea. Hallelujah. The topic is toxic male. It's the same as toxic female, actually. So there's two types of blondes. One is okay, normal. The other one is abnormal, feminists. Is there such thing as a positive feminist? And somewhat, yes. There's yin yang, as the Chinese say, in everything. So I'm going to be looking at the topic toxic poison, masculinity and feminism. The same as a rodent. Who would want to eat a rodent? I don't think many people would want to eat a rodent, even if they were going to survive and that was the only food that they had. Except for those that perhaps have eaten it on the wet market when we had the original COVID pandemic. It wasn't called COVID then, it was called something else. So I'm unaware of who's holding me, in the sense that makes me feel uncomfortable. I want to be aware of who's holding me. And so anybody that is in that category of the 666 devil versus God's number 666 will be burning God's people alive by forcing us to worship them, like them, by forcing us to like and admire a witch or a wizard is the same as burning God's people alive, destroying their livelihoods. And they know if you don't like them, they'll come and attack you. They literally will come and attack you. And they expect a certain behavior, and I'll leave the best until the last. What I mean by that, I'm going to use an example of a public profile, especially privileged individuals who are celebrities, and I'm going to put them all in the same category to say they have special friends. They cannot be scorned or criticised. If they are, they're going to have intervention at destroying your platforms, including, actually I'm not going to leave it to the end of this video, the actual names. I'll just blurt it out as I regurgitate my food, similar to vomit. So the stronghold of these demonic people, are Boris Johnson, liars, misogynistic. So there's two types of misogynistic men. Not all misogynistic men are bad. Not all feminists are bad. Not all feminine women are bad. There's good in everyone. But what makes them stronger and God's people weaker is when they use somebody who is in a disadvantage to sort of help them halfway, to make us the half-cooked cake, while they earn more money and more prestige. So I'm upset about that. And it's a new enemy that I have identified, particularly Boris Johnson, PM, in the Parliament of London, Mel Gibson, Gordon Ramsay, and other women. I don't know the names on the top of my head, but they are excruciatingly beautiful or even delicate to look at. So obviously these women who are saying that I'm not allowed to be happy unless I have been robbed or raped. So them being robbed and raped is an advantage that makes them tremble. When they're punished, they get perversely excited for that. Whereas God's people, when we are punished, it's not perverse. It's not about perversity. It is about purity. So there's a difference with God's people being punished compared to evil people being punished. So my disadvantage for being robbed and raped is their advantage. So they actually enjoy perversion and they actually enjoy being robbed and raped because it strengthens them swapping and switching relationships. So they swap wives and they swap husbands, and it's terrible. It's a domestic terrorist. It certainly is. And so I don't understand how the fact that I am injured as a result of social and domestic terrorists and they are not. So I'm going to reveal that in the video to say I'm very uncomfortable of those commissioning to be the hero in the society when they're not the hero. They don't practice what they preach. And this is why I'm against them. This is why it is an enemy. And it's a holy war against them. So I'm responding instantly to say, why should certain individuals who are rescuing someone from danger forced to work with these individuals that I don't like? And so therefore, if I'm going to have someone support me, why should my support worker instantly associate with those that I don't like? And we don't seem to have any option. And so I never doubted in God protecting my life. And so several people that would choose these individuals that I have just said that I don't like, who are public profiles, either they choose it by free will or they are forced to work with them. There must be a way out. Pause. So they're bullies threatening to close down my channel because I said I want them out. I want them nowhere near my channel. And yet they've imposed themselves on my channel. They're bullies and they want to remove my friends because anyone that I like they turn against me, or they sometimes, if they're going to turn my friends against me or make my friends contradict me and say that I cannot be assured in my faith in God, and they're looking to smear my reputation, to say that God is not able to break the oppression in my life through this we all know as the system of Babylon. So the system of Babylon is actually probably about 200 years old, that has been modernized in the modern government and coded so that nobody knows that it's very similar, if not the same or worse than Babylon as Sodom and Gomorrah. And so God has determined, according to God's word, to look at the obvious apostasy of those who are advocating for Jesus Christ in the Christian faith of evangelism and be against the Jews at the same time, as the example of Mel Gibson, Gordon Ramsay, and probably Donald Trump. So what I'm saying is that there is a divine judgment against them, that God will judge them because they have judged God's people wrongly and handed us over and reinforced our oppressors to remove our blessings that God has promised and proved to God's people. So they are assisting social and domestic terrorists in the fulfillment of false prophets and prophetesses who are actually there to earn money off of the poorest people suffering. So if we're going to rescue and surrender to Jesus' will to rescue children, for example, from being sexually abused, or single mums from domestic situations where they're beaten, you're going to share the equal money, but these actors are actually taking more money for themselves and their families. That's what I suspect. So they're false prophets in attempt to, and God will highly punish them for that. So they're capitalists. That's the main reason I'm against Donald Trump, probably, if he is a capitalist, Mel Gibson and Gordon Ramsay, and the women around them, including the far left governments. The majority of them are Jezebel spirit women, because they will put to death anybody who contradicts them or doesn't confirm their assumptions. So they assume something. So the example of Mel Gibson, I said I'd leave the best to last, because I'm not going to carry on mentioning their names throughout this video. I found him on Facebook, started following him, and then I said in my commentary, I like you forever. To test, to see if he is going to accept my love in a platonic sense and spiritual sense, but he didn't. He caused a stir, took it the wrong way, and I was going to unsubscribe, because obviously his woman at the time was conforming him into obeying her, and only her she gives him the most love and attention. And which is the same probably as Will Smith and his woman that he was with. She would control him in this way so that he settles down with her. And if in reality she assumes that he fancies somebody else, they're going to prolong a wrong judgment against that. So I then made a video after that saying how his films for the Passion of the Christ I'm going to discredit, because he's not going to have an eternal blessing for making a film for crucifying Jesus Christ all over again, according to Hebrews chapter 6. And I don't believe that he had asked God for permission to do that film for the Passion of the Christ, and the new film that he's doing, which is going to be the resurrection of Jesus Christ, in the full description that breaks any agreement for his fame and his fortunes. That's another reason why I'm against Mel Gibson, for double betrayal, and saying he's the same as Peter, who denied Jesus and wanted to take Jesus' ministry without the eternal blessing. So, for example, Jesus gave Peter the eternal blessing to say, you will have my mission, you will have my missionary, because you have honored me and repented, not because you have dishonored me and never repented. So that's the example I've given against Mel Gibson, Will Smith, and others that are not disciplined, and they carry on doing it. And so they're uninvitable guests on my platform if I had subscribed to them, because they never understood my viewpoint in the first instance. They were angry because their women were angry and jealous and envious of me for giving him a complimentary comment, which is not sexual. It was based platonically. And I also had a dream of him, which I don't dream of men. How he had the power and the ability to restore my life to health, and to restore my life to some type of equality as regards to my ex who was attacking me on social media. So that was a dream, but in reality, it's far from the dream. He's the same as the golden cow. He's the same as the blonde who is always looking out for a challenge and competition, so for her glory, which is not anything to do with being equal, to treat others another as you like to be treated, not more, not less. So these are leaders, these are also managers, who are in control of our media platforms, coming from Hollywood, and at the same time, it is about greed, and it is about non-stop brainwashing about them being the chosen one, them being the everlasting covenant with God, and that they are false, that they are prophets. And the earlier emphasis of what I have said in the video about him and his film, The Passion of the Christ, was professionally presented. It wasn't casual like this. And I had given detailed descriptions, but unfortunately, because of him, I had to delete that video and all my channels. And because of people such as Boris Johnson, that I suspect had deleted all my channels on Facebook. They're only feeding themselves, in other words. They're the masters who are, according to my note that I made, enigmatic. That means they're doing it for a certain group of people, and they don't consider the poor people and those who are suffering as much as they say they do, on purpose. And any instructions that's given to them, any rules that's given to them, they would go ahead and break those rules. So in a single setting in this video, I have asked people to kindly stay away from my channel, because I don't want to be united with them, controlled by them, or because I know they don't care about me. I know that they don't have the best interest, and their goal is to make me feel bitter and grief and make me misrepresented. That is not what I want. So that's why I'm responding in this video, because I am unaware of certain individuals I have subscribed to that actually like these individuals that I have just mentioned. Anybody who is capitalist, whether that worships money more than God, is the same as an object or a part of a body, or I say part, not the entire thing. So they're picking. It's like picking at something. And I want to stop talking about his film, but it's like the narrative is a lion and a lioness would eat the entire body, everything, whereas birds only pick at certain things. And so that's what I want to add. Why what I'm just explaining, is the narrative for poisonous humans, toxic, ill, sick humans that should not be in the position that they're in, because they're sick, they're mentally sick. They're not capable, they don't have that capacity to understand the entire thing. They're looking at, ironically, they call it the bird eye view, but they don't have the bird eye view. They're stuck in tunnel vision. And so it's an imprisonment of society, to say that there's always this bad message. If you contradict them, if you confront them, discourage them, resist them, they will charge you with treason, to accuse me of being a false friend. I'm not a false friend, because I dismembered myself many years ago. So why do they keep coming back? To say that they're coming back in the name of protection. They should be punished, not the other way around. And also because they know, all the police officers and governors, that they can ask them to get me to have the mercy. So I'm doing a written document and a video to say anybody that agrees with misogynist men and feminists and feminine women, that are abusing their positions of power to affect me to the point of suicide and a dead end is totally immorally wrong, deranged, and trying to think of another word, what they are. Immoral, wrong, deranged, and have a compulsive disorder. They're saying, I have an eating disorder. I don't have an eating disorder. If I'm not well, I eat more. If I am well, I eat less. So they're the same ones that will grab hold of your hand and use your hand to slap yourself. They're the same ones that tell you to go and F yourself. They're the same one that blame you for every problem that exists. That is the example of being toxic, depicted in this video. If they're going to pick at me, I pick at them as much. If they're going to slap me in the face, I will slap them in the face as much. So it's very, very, how can I put it? I don't want to misplace them. I want to be precise. To say, I can judge them based on their ill treatment of me and abusing their position of power. But God Almighty is the one who's going to judge them most severely. So, what I mean again by picking or some type of a voucher or vampire, similar, is that they will find an area of weakness or fear and they will pick at that and find a way to strike you and contain you in that same criticism forever. To say, we're going to find something in your history that we don't like and we're going to put you in prison in that history forever. That to me is not about Jesus Christ's grace, mercy, and particularly in striking those false Christians that say that you should love your enemies forever, you should love your abusers forever, which is the worst hypocrisy. And at the same time, they're going to gain a new population, new children that they're going to give birth to, new fame and new fortune at the same time for making a new film about how they're going to be the false hero in it or landmaker in it. It's so annoying. The very thing that they have criticized is the very thing that they want to now rescue. Jesus says, I have come to rescue them. And the very people Jesus came to rescue were crucifying Jesus Christ. Somewhere in the Bible. Trying to find it. So whatever they do for their success is short-lived. Because their motivation and energy is perverse. It is about shaking. It's about trembling. For the wrong reasons, not for the right reasons. And so it's very immature that they are counselling their leaders and managers in this toxic environment to say that when they make a crisis, they profit from that crisis. So actually the filming industry is another way of making a profit by destroying people's minds through the education system, through the family unit, and through the filming industry. They destroy people's minds, their way of thinking, to know what's right and wrong, and then they profit from people's sufferings because they've destroyed people's minds in the film about God, they've destroyed people's minds about God in the education system, and they've destroyed people's minds in the social system and family system unit. So this is why they're the devil's advocate. They're some type of a side man or side woman who's continually sponging off of you or picking at you, picking faults, even when there is no fault. And that lasts forever. You're stuck in that situation forever because these people live. So God's going to do a retribution against these. Particularly that they have said that the majority of capitalists are actually the Holocaust deniers, majority of them. So if we did a statistics to study this, to find out if it's true, I don't know, because no statistic has been created yet. Are they Holocaust deniers and say that all Jews are bad, and the majority in every country, nearly every country, is bad? So why only focus on the Jews? And the answer is because you've stolen their Bible and Torah. So the thief is then blabbering on, saying, "Oh, the victim is bad." Imagine that. You have a burglar and a rapist and robber saying that the victim is bad. You let me in. You didn't defend yourself. You're stupid. You let me steal your possessions. And the answer is no. The victim, in most cases, is not the one who is bad. Is probably too weak to defend themselves, probably do not have the training or the resources to defend themselves. So it's disgusting to be overtaken and overrun by protection services in the name of these evil celebrities, evil toxic men and women who are abusing their professional positions of power, and various other type of enemies that express their crime is actually what protects them. Crime against humanity, crime against privacy violations protects them, which is crime against humanity actually protects them. It actually makes them stronger, which makes the devil impersonating itself as a good type of angel, carrying out being a false hero. So I pray that another person who is equally or stronger in their position of power would remove them eventually, to rise against them eventually, because I'm tired of them destroying my friends, getting in the way through politics and through the messages that they're sending to confuse people's minds through the filming industries, education and social platforms to ruin our lives. So God will punish them for that. They've broken everything: my security, the corruption in the government, the corruption in the police, the corruption on social platforms, the corruption in the filming industries. To rely on that, I'm not relying on it, but I'm doing it for my own reference, to say I've got to start somewhere and make my own social circle, which should have nothing to do with them. And yet they've swallowed my platform whole. As an evil dragon, it swallowed my Facebook, 10 of my Facebooks. It swallowed about 7 or 8 of my YouTube channels. They kept shutting it down. So who is it? Is it the colonials or is it the capitalists? And I believe it is the capitalists, because they're double dealing. They say one thing in your face and do the entire other thing behind your back. So they're double dealing. And they've actually made that fashionable. They're maniacs and lunatics. They've made that fashionable. And I've tried to sort of go in with a mask on to say that I am one of them, to actually stop them. But these idiots come along and remove my mask off of my face and off of my behaviour, to say I'm not allowed to do coded language, to actually say the opposite of what I mean and speak their language. So they've removed my mask, so I'm now back in exile. I'm now back in slavery. I'm now back. I'm being caught again because they knew that I was as a saint woman. I am as a saint woman dressed in the devil's clothing. So God knows that. God can threaten the devil today. And therefore, because God has threatened the devil, who do you think the devil's going to take its anger and frustration on? So I symbolized my channel with ice to say I'm very cold, not cool, cold on strangers. on one of my channels has ice on it, and the other channel has a Scottish material, the tartan, to say that I like tradition, but it doesn't mean that I'm old-fashioned. So that's the mark of the beast. To be in one mind with God is to look at these extremist activities and wickedness. Just like the book of Ezekiel said, Ezekiel was transported to the gate into the temple of God, which is far greater than my temple, my home, my church, or my body, or my toilet. So, people such as Elijah and Elisha had a great vision. And they knew that idolism and idol worship is extremely dangerous for those that have an advanced relationship with God, how much more for children and for adults. Ezekiel knew this also, as much as Elisha and Elijah, because he was solitaire, and he knew what the Jezebel spirit did through her sexualities. So the allegory of Egypt also being condemned by God, but after they have died, and God's judgment several times, Egypt was saved. And all these bad bullies were actually saved, only because they acknowledged God's judgments. That's the important bit. If you're going to be a leader and a manager, you have to acknowledge God's judgments before your own, rather than be self-righteous in your own definition, in your own understanding, because God is beyond my understanding, above me, around me, in areas that I am unaware. So I have done this video to say this is the same as my vineyard, my garden without a fence, my home without a door on social media, to say no, I need a door, I need a fence, and I need some type of a gate just to defend my own ways without anybody else interfering. So that's why I mean, elsewhere, anyone's going to come and support me, rescue me following them, or them following me, they have to make sure that they talk to me about it for being united in Jesus Christ, and make sure that there is a defense, so that we don't have to work with anybody that I'm not agreeable or united with. Shut business. Not that I have a bad pride, but because the devil had taken too much away from me and made me suffer too much. That's not bad pride. Acknowledging that the devil has taken away too much away from me, and knowing that the devil work is done by damaging and destroying everything in my life. That's why I want to have the option of not to work with someone that is not in unity with me. Not because of bad pride or any good pride that I have, confidence, if we don't want to call it pride, because I am disgusted, and God is disgusted at anything that is evil, wicked and wrong, to have this another dimension, to have two realities in a perspective of false worship of God. So God says there's a large cooking pot. It cannot be cleansed for many years of stain and perversion. And the sins that's found in the book of Ezekiel. At 23, brutally abused God's people. Not 23, 24, verses 1 to 14. And that cooking pot is so rusty and horrible, black as soot, and brown and horrible, and So it's the only pot that you have to live on. You cannot have another pot from a shop. And you're so desperate to clean that pot by using fire and heat. That's how God is towards people that have gone astray and who are called bad people, who are no people. The next day they can become God's people through God's miracle, as cleansing and purging that pot. However, on another hand, there is the horror of those that disbelieve that God can cleanse them because they don't delight in God. They would say, I'm second best, that Jesus is second best, and anything that God has done for me is second best. It's not good enough. So God will not accept them, will ruin them and remove their joy and remove their glory as rats, bad rats, compared to those who are as good rats in the pot, who are cleansed, which is a miracle from God because it's impossible to clean that pot, as stated in Ezekiel chapter 24, 1 to 14 in the Torah. So it's a very rare and highly unlikely to have the perverse generation be cleansed, and Sodom and Gomorrah as that rusty pot. However, it is possible. So that's how I close my video, looking at all these obstacle courses to say it's not necessary for me to subscribe to. If you agree with them, I'm not united with you. If you work with them, I'm not united with you. You can't have the devil and God at the same time. You can't have money and the devil at the same time. It's one or the other. If you have God first as a priority, then you can have everything and anything by God's order, grace, and glory. Not the other way around, where the devil is glorified, stealing from the poor, stealing our information, stealing our goals, inspirations, attractions, friends. It's done the other way around. So no. The restoration of the house of David in Ezekiel 34 chapter. Again, he had the vision. David was determined not to share that vision with the devil, as in the conditions of Garden in Eden against Edom. And yet he had many obstacles and obscurances to block the restoration. When God said that King David was focused on having his life restored after his perversions. So, this is how I close my video. That it's not impossible to restore God's people. Once there were no people, and another time they can become God's people, according to Ezekiel 36, chapter 1, verses 39 to 29. And that's the restoration of something that is copied and a replica from heaven, only because David acknowledged God being the holy master and boss. And also this has been revealed through the prophet Zechariah. And so these are the true prophets versus the false prophets that are saying you need sex, you need Hollywood, you need to be a filmmaker, you need to have a fast racing car, you need all of this to witness for Jesus, to preach Jesus, to worship Jesus. No, you do not. You don't need to be any of that. And that's the message that's being sent that I am against. You could be as naked as a baby with nothing, either on a healthy bed or a sick bed, and still do God's will and witness for God in truth and in power and beauty. As I close my video, complete. Just saying, they're not going to get in my way anymore, because I plan to buy a camcorder, and I'm going to buy my camcorder and record all my videos that they have stolen, attempted to black out and block to punish me. It should be them that's punished, not the other way around. I'm Maya Maria, middle name Marina, Miss Nikolic, formerly known. New name is Mima. Middle of July 2023.